And then it will ask you to choose a password. So there are a few different options available for the password. Option 1 is that you can require the user to enter a startup syskey password, which is at least 12 characters long, right? So you can choose any password that the user wants. Second option is that the system will generate a password which can be stored in a pen drive, and the user must connect the pen drive to that system. Only then can the user log into their computer. And the option 3 is that the system will generate a password and store it locally on the system, and user doesn't need to do anything. So there are 3 options in terms of using syskey. So let me recap. We already have seen how easy it is to crack Windows login passwords. So then Microsoft finally got sick of all the security issues on Windows, so they introduced syskey. Syskey did 2 main things. Number 1, it encrypted the SAM file. Once you have encrypted the SAM file, it means that even if you use an offline technique by booting into another operating system and stealing the SAM file, it will not actually help because the SAM file is encrypted. Secondly, even if you know the password, even if you have cracked the password, the Windows login password, there is an additional password that you are required to enter for Windows to start, and that password is known as syskey password. And how to use that syskey password, there are 3 options. One option is that, okay, user just remembers the syskey password. Second is, Windows will generate a very long syskey password that the user can store in a pen drive and store the pen drive with them. So in such a scenario, if you are the criminal, and if I'm using a syskey password stored in my pen drive, you'll not only need to crack my Windows login password, you'll also need to physically steal my pen drive from me, which is pretty hard. And step number 3 is that, okay, the syskey password is just stored locally on the system. User doesn't need to remember anything. So what are the advantages of syskey? And why was it much better than the earlier times when there was no syskey? So first of all, a criminal cannot start Windows without somehow gaining access to the encryption key on the pen drive or without entering the syskey startup password, even if offline hacking tools have been used. Right? So that added an additional layer of security. Secondly, even if a criminal has cracked, changed, or reset the Windows login password using offline techniques, they will still not be able to log in, since they will be asked for the syskey password. Again, second layer of security. The third advantage is that syskey encrypted the SAM file, which made it much harder for criminals to use brute force attacks or rainbow tables attacks to crack the password. So syskey was much better than times before syskey. However, some hackers have found some loopholes in syskey as well. So there's a very good tutorial which I like to recommend to all of you. The website address where you can find this tutorial of how to crack syskey password using Ubuntu, BK Hive, and SamDump2 is available at this website, epyxforensics.com. I repeat, epyxforensics.com/node/34. epyxforensics.com/node/34. There's another software called Sam Inside. Sam Inside, which basically allows you to crack the Windows password plus the syskey password as well. I have tried it a few times. It's never worked for me. But on their website and on various hacking forums, they keep claiming that this software works. So if it works for you, please try it out. Maybe it will work for you. It did not work for me. So all along we have been discussing various ways in which you can crack the Windows login password. However, it's very important to kind of understand, why do you want to even crack the Windows login password? What is the objective? If your objective is to steal data from your friend's computer, then why are you even worried about cracking his password? If the objective is to crack the password, then yes, you should crack the password. But if the objective of the criminal is to simply steal data from the victim's computer, then you don't need to crack the password. Because there's a technique called USB hacking or CD hacking, where you can take Linux distributions like Knoppix and Ubuntu, and you can copy them onto a CD or a pen drive. So you take Linux distributions like Knoppix or Ubuntu, you copy it onto a CD or install it on a pen drive, go to the victim's computer, plug the pen drive or put the CD in, go to the BIOS, change the boot sequence, and enable boot from CD-ROM. So now what will happen is, instead of Windows booting, you will boot into Ubuntu or Knoppix. And then you can just mount the C drive, copy whatever data you want, and steal the data. As simple as that. Unless the victim has enabled disk encryption, this USB and CD hacking will work. And you don't need to even worry about trying to crack the Windows login passwords. So as you can clearly see, there are a variety of different ways in which your Windows computer is vulnerable. Somebody can come in and execute offline attacks. Somebody can crack even the syskey password. Somebody can even execute USB hacking and CD hacking to steal your data. So what all do you need to do to protect yourself? How do you actually protect Windows? How do you actually protect the data that you have on your Windows machine? So in this slide, I like to talk a little bit about the things that you can do to protect Windows. First of all, you should disable boot from external drives by changing the BIOS settings. However, that doesn't protect the criminal from physically opening your CPU and connecting the hard drive to some other system and then performing the attack, or cracking the BIOS password or resetting the BIOS settings. But still you should do it. Secondly, you should enable syskey on your computer. And thirdly, you should encrypt your hard drive. BitLocker disk or drive encryption is a security feature that comes with Windows Vista onwards that protects your data, passwords, and files against offline attacks. And it can be enabled by simply going into the control panel of your computer, go into System and Security, and then enable BitLocker drive encryption. So it's a very simple solution, but it ensures that it ensures that all the offline attacks will not work. It also ensures that CD hacking, pen drive hacking will no longer work. So we have discussed a wide variety of different attacks that you can execute to find out somebody else's Windows login password. Let us now also discuss some privilege escalation attacks. What is privilege escalation? Privilege escalation is a type of attack where you already have an account on a system, like a regular normal user account. Like typically in your college, you're given a particular account, but it's a regular user account. It's not an admin account. So privilege escalation is a technique that allows you to convert an account which is a normal account into an admin account. So that is what privilege escalation is all about. How do you convert a regular account into an admin account? So that you have full privileges, full access to everything on that system. So there used to be a very interesting attack known as sticky keys attack, which I like to actually talk a little bit about at this stage. Sticky keys attack. Sticky keys is actually a special feature that is built into Windows for the benefit of people with physical disabilities. It allows physically disabled people to use the function keys like Shift, Control, Alt, or the Windows key by pressing it after pressing the other key, instead of pressing both the keys simultaneously. So usually when you're using Control and Control A, Control F or whatever, you need to press both the keys together. But physically disabled people are not able to do that. So for the benefit of people with physical disabilities, what Windows does is that there's a feature called sticky keys that allows them to press Control and then after that press something else, or Shift and after that press something else. It is possible to activate the sticky keys feature by pressing the Shift key 5 times when you reach the Windows login screen. When you activate the sticky keys, then the following exe file normally gets executed. So whenever you try to activate sticky keys by pressing the Shift key 5 times at the Windows login screen, then Windows executes this special file called sethc.exe. And this file is at windows/system32/seth c.exe. Now if you were to replace the above file with the cmd.exe file, then what will happen? Because next time when you are at the Windows login prompt, if you press the shift key 5 times, then since you have replaced the sethc.exe file with command.exe file, the command.exe file gets executed. And it gets executed with admin rights. So that is what the sticky keys attack is all about. So what exactly do you do in this attack? Right? So let's actually go through the step-by-step process that you need to follow in the sticky keys attack. First of all, you got to create a bootable USB or pen drive of Windows PE or Windows RE. Once Windows PE or Windows RE boots, you need to access the command line prompt, type the command to replace the sticky keys file with the command line file, and the command that you got to type is copy C drive /windows /system32/cmd.exe followed by C drive /windows /system32/sethc.exe. So you're basically replacing the sticky keys.exe file with the command line.exe file. Now you gotta restart the computer, and when you reach the login prompt, you gotta press shift 5 times to enable sticky keys. Immediately the command line prompt will start. And once the command line prompt starts, you have admin rights. So you can actually type the following command to change the password of any of the existing users. And the command is net space user space username followed by the new password followed by space /add. It does not work on each and every version of Windows, but you can always try it out. So that was the first example of a privilege escalation attack that is possible on a Windows machine. There's another attack called hidden admin account attack. Hidden admin account attack. In this attack, it is possible to create a new hidden admin account on a Windows machine by simply following the below procedure. Step number 1 is you boot into Windows PE or RE and go to the command line prompt and type the following command. Net user followed by the username, some new username, followed by some password, followed by add, /add. So if you look at the screenshot, that's the demonstration. I've shown you the screenshot of what exactly will happen. Now you got to go to the following Windows registry entry. Let's wait for that to get displayed. So go to the following Windows registry entry, and there will be a sub key called special accounts and user list. If they don't exist, then you got to create them. Select the user list sub key in the left column and right click anywhere in the right column and select new dword value. The name of the dword value should be username of the hidden account that you wish to create. So in this case it was Ankit Hidden, and set its value to 0. This makes the account hidden and it will not appear on the login screen when Windows boots. And to log into the hidden admin account, when you reach the login screen of Windows, just press Ctrl-Alt-Delete and then manually enter the username and password of the hidden account, and you'll be able to then log in as the administrator. As simple as that. Again, this privilege escalation attack does not work on each and every version of Windows. Now, some of the new versions of Windows come with biometric, recognition of fingerprint, passwords, and so on. So there is a software called Windows Password Recovery 7.0 that allows you to actually even bypass or crack the fingerprint readers or the biometric passwords that have been enabled in some of the new versions of Windows. Windows 8 actually launched or introduced a new type of password mechanism called picture passwords. So what exactly are picture passwords? So picture passwords basically shows you a password on the login screen, and you gotta, either using a finger or using your mouse, you gotta tap or press different portions of the picture or image in a particular pattern or order. and that becomes your password. But in reality, such a picture password is actually very vulnerable to brute force attacks, because in most pictures there are very few different points where you can actually remember and where you can actually press your password. So I would recommend not using picture passwords at all. Then you have something called LSA secrets, which I'm just going to skip. And then let's quickly move on to SHA-1 and SHA-2 encoding. So early on, I think in the previous lecture, we had actually seen MD5 encoding. And MD5 encoding used to be really powerful and really popular at some point of time, and then it got cracked. And the latest form of encoding nowadays is SHA-1 and SHA-2 encoding. SHA stands for Secure Hash Algorithm, and it was developed by the US government. It is actually much more secure than MD5 hash. And SHA-2 is the latest version of SHA, which is actually very difficult to crack. However, as you can predict, even SHA-1 and SHA-2 has been cracked. There's a very interesting website which I like to recommend to all of you, and it is called webutils.pl. webutils.pl, where you can crack pretty much any version of SHA. This website is creating a rainbow table for SHA cracking. So very soon all kinds of SHA and SHA-2 hashes would be cracked in a matter of a few seconds using this website. There's another website called SHA2decrypt.com. SHA2decrypt.com, which pretty much does the same thing. It allows you to actually crack any kind of SHA-1 and SHA-2 encryption. Yet another website which I like to share with all of you is this website called crackstation.net. Crackstation.net. This website allows you to upload a hash, which could be MD5, SHA, Whirlpool, NTLM, and other popular hashes, and it will try to crack the hash and display the output for you. Yet another software which allows you to crack various hash algorithms is this software called MD5 Deep. It actually does not allow you to crack the password, but it actually computes the hash for various files that you might have. So if you remember, I had discussed something called hash checksums, which basically ensure that the file that you have downloaded is authentic or not. So MD5 Deep allows you to do that. Not only MD5, but also SHA-1, SHA-2, Tiger, and Whirlpool hashes can be calculated by this particular software. So with that, we actually come to the end of Windows login password cracking. And I'd like to quickly move on to the next topic, or the next type of password that criminals like to crack on the internet. And this technique is actually, or this type of password is something known as network passwords. So what do I mean by network passwords? Network passwords are basically any kind of password that you type on a network. So it could be an FTP password, it could be an HTTP password, it could be an SQL password, and corporate email account password, and so on. So any kind of network password can actually be cracked very easily using brute force password cracking tools. And one of the oldest and most popular brute force password cracking tools is a software called Brutus. And Brutus is available as a free download on the internet. And what Brutus does is, it will one by one try out all possible permutations and combinations of the keyboard as the victim's password. And sooner or later, the correct password is arrived at and is displayed as output. All you have to do is select the victim IP address, select the victim port number, enter the username of the victim, and also provide a dictionary file to Brutus. A dictionary file will have all the different characters that you want to use when you're creating different permutations, combinations of passwords. But to be honest, Brutus is very slow, and it no longer does as good a job as it used to do. And computing power has increased, lengths of passwords has also increased with time, which led to the introduction of this brilliant brute force password cracking tool called THC Hydra. THC Hydra. THC Hydra is a parallelized login cracker for various protocols or various types of network passwords like FTP, HTTP, POP, SQL, Oracle, Telnet, and so on. And what is unique about THC Hydra is that it runs multiple versions or multiple processes of the software parallelly. And since they are running parallelly, the amount of time this software will overall take to crack the victim's password is drastically reduced. So that's the benefit, that's the advantage of THC Hydra. Another similar software that has drastically managed to reduce the amount of time brute force password cracking takes is this software called Medusa. Medusa is a parallel network login auditor, and it essentially has been created to test the security of passwords, but actually it's a password cracking tool. So you had Brutus, which is the first generation of brute force password cracking tools. But then after a while it became too slow. Then the second generation of password cracking tools were tools like THC Hydra and Medusa, which ran parallel versions of itself so that it reduced the amount of time it took overall to crack the victim's password. The third generation or the latest generation of password cracking tools or brute force password cracking tools is something known as distributed network attack tools. Distributed network attack tools. It is a technique that cracks the password of the victim by using unused and underutilized processing power of all the computers on the network. So imagine that in your LAN, you have 50 different computers. Now wouldn't it be great if there was a way to use the processing power available on all those 50 computers simultaneously to crack the victim's password? So if one computer is taking, say, 50 hours to crack a password, then technically, if you use 50 computers to crack the same password, it should take 1 hour, right? Because if one computer takes 50 hours, 50 computers with the same processing power running simultaneously should only take 1 hour to crack the same password. So that is what a distributed network attack is all about. And Elcomsoft, the Russian website that we had discussed earlier, actually allows you to download this software called Elcomsoft Distributed Password Recovery Tool that does exactly that for you. How does it work? It basically has two parts. It has a server part and then it has a client part. So the server part of the DNA attack tool, which is the Elcomsoft DNA attack tool, has to be installed on your central server of your LAN. It could be your computer, let's say. And the clients have to be installed on all the other computers of your LAN. The server will then create smaller jobs of the password cracking process and will distribute the smaller jobs across all the clients in your LAN. The clients will run in the background. They do not disturb regular applications, regular utilization of the computer. It only uses the underutilized processing power of each computer. And such a distributed attack drastically, tremendously reduces the amount of time it takes to crack the victim's password. And Elcomsoft actually provides support for up to 2,500 clients simultaneously attacking the same victim